Who we haven't fought? Imagine that. They gotta lie. They gotta lie. They gotta lie all the time. They can't even believe their own lie. You can't even believe your own lie.
I want to be the best. So when I see certain guys out there, and I seen Teo his last fight, I was there front row, and I'm like, damn, this dude is like, he like a baby Roy. Like he like doing things hands down, flashy.
Too much of it. You know, I think that he believes in himself. That's one thing. But I'm here to destroy his dream.
This fight is about to expose everything. Teofimo Lopez just issued the most brutal warning I've ever heard at a press conference, and Shakur Stevenson better be listening. Because what Lopez said wasn't just trash talk. It was a promise. A guarantee that he's about to dismantle the so-called golden boy of boxing piece by piece. And here's the crazy part. Everyone's writing Lopez off as the underdog, which might be the biggest mistake they've ever made. Lopez stood up at that podium with fire in his eyes and basically told the entire boxing world that they're about to witness something special. He said people underestimate him at their own risk, and honestly, looking at his track record, that's not an empty threat. This man has been doubted before, and every single time he's made his doubters look foolish.
I'm gonna beat him up. I'm gonna beat him up.
And we know at one point you contemplated retirement. Seems like you're in a good place now. You're active. Where are you at right now? Where are you feeling about your...
But here's where it gets personal, and this is what nobody's talking about. Lopez isn't just fighting for another win. He's fighting for everything he's built, everything he's sacrificed for, everything he's bled for. While he was chilling in the Bahamas, having a good time, he made something crystal clear: Shakur Stevenson is not taking the belt he worked so hard to earn. And when Lopez talks about sacrifice, he's not being dramatic. This man has put his body through hell, missed family events, lived in gyms, and endured years of pain to get where he is. That belt around his waist represents blood, sweat, discipline, and commitment that most people can't even comprehend. So when Shakur walks into that ring thinking he's just going to take it, Lopez is ready to remind him that some things in life aren't just handed to you.
As are both in Las Vegas, I'm hearing that you did link up today. A face-off happened between the two of you?
Yeah, face-off happened, things of that nature, just to create the things that are in motion already. So we're really adamant about fighting each other next, and I can't wait for us to really lace it up. And I see him across the ring, and really when that bell rings, lights out for him.
What's it like seeing him now kind of face-to-face? When you look at him, what do you see? Because obviously you're not locked in just yet, and the closer it gets to a fight, obviously things turn a little bit. But when you do look at Shakur, what do you think of him?
I think, I don't think too much of it. You know, I think that he believes in himself. That's one thing. But I'm here to destroy his dream.
Now here's where the chess match gets absolutely fascinating, and this breakdown from Koya is mind-blowing. This fight is almost guaranteed to go 12 rounds, but the first 6 rounds are going to determine everything. Think about it, Shakur's not going to come out swinging like some wild man. He's too smart for that. He's going to fight off the back foot, study Lopez, figure out his timing, and wait for his opportunities. But here's the kicker: if Lopez dominates those early rounds, if he convinces the judges that he's controlling the fight, Shakur's entire game plan goes out the window. Suddenly, the calm, calculated Shakur becomes desperate Shakur, and desperate fighters make mistakes. Koya pointed out something crucial: Shakur is a front runner. He relies on that early energy, that explosiveness in the first half of fights. But what happens when that's not enough? What happens when Lopez weathers the storm and keeps coming?
Can't take this from me. I worked very hard for it. I've bled for this, and I'm not taking nothing from him, but I just believe that what's gonna happen next is.
And get this, Shakur himself revealed something that changes everything about how we should view this fight. He said watching Lopez's previous performances reminded him of a young Roy Jones Jr. Let that sink in for a second. Roy Jones Jr., that's not a comparison you throw around lightly. Shakur saw that confident, flashy style and thought to himself, I need to test myself against that. But here's what's wild about Shakur's mindset. He's treating this like a learning experience. He talked about his fight against William Ada being unconventional and demanding, but how it proved invaluable for his growth. That fight taught him he could handle constant pressure, that he could thrive under adversity. So now, facing Lopez, Shakur feels like he's been preparing for this exact type of challenge his entire career. The speed, the power, the unpredictability, he's convinced he can handle all of it.
I don't think that Shakur is going to come out and try to fight or take the fight to Teo in the first 6 rounds at all. So if he's fighting off the back foot, if Teo can make it so that he's convinced at least Shakur that he may have won 4 of the first 6 rounds. You know, if it's 4-2 in Shakur's mind going into the second half of the fight, or if I'm looking at him stealing those first 6 rounds, then it's an interesting fight going into the tail end, because Teo, to me, is a front runner, right? I want to see if he can carry his energy and his explosiveness late in the fight and not wear down. And then when Shakur starts to open up, you know, can you steal some of those championship rounds from him and make it like a close fight? I think if Teo comes out and does what he usually does, which is try to swarm Shakur early and keep Shakur on the defensive early, then he can try to steal a lot of those early rounds. And if he does that, then Shakur has to fight in the tail end of that fight. Now to make it real interesting. If I'm looking at the first 3 rounds, first 4 rounds, and Teo looks like he's losing those rounds convincingly, then it's an easy night for Shakur, unanimous decision in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because I don't think Teo is going to bring anything late in the game, you know what I mean, to this fight. I think if he is who he's always been, you know, he's going to get gassed after like the 7th round and then take some rounds off. And when he does that, Shakur will open up and start to try to pick him apart, pot shot him, and do things like that. But this is the perfect fight, narrative-wise, for Shakur, because I've been waiting for Shakur to get into that fight where, you know, he doesn't have the fight where he doesn't have his Diego Corrales fight, you know what I mean, where you think he's actually in danger. Shakur has been he's been outclassing everybody he's in the ring with, you know what I mean? Then the guys that you think could give him some work, like De Los Santos, I know people hate when I bring that fight up.
But hold up, because Chris Algery just dropped some serious perspective that puts this whole fight into context. This isn't just another boxing match. This is the type of fight that defines careers, that separates the good from the great, that creates legends. Algery said something that hit different fighters can remain elite even with setbacks. That means both guys can afford to take this risk, to really let everything hang out there. And that's terrifying for both of them, because it means neither one is going to play it safe. This is going to be a technical masterpiece, not some sloppy brawl. The skill level on display is going to keep fans glued to their screens, analyzing every jab, every movement, every tactical adjustment. And here's what's crazy. A victory for Shakur doesn't just win him a fight, it catapults him into the top 5 pound-for-pound fighters in the world. That's the level of stakes we're talking about here.
But bro, what is it about you that has you, looking at a fighter that you know is the truth and then saying, I want to fight him? It seems like it should be normal if you're a fighter, right? But that stuff is dying off in the game right now. And I feel like you one of the last of the dying breed that actually want real challenges.
Yeah, I'm competitive, bro. So it's like, I want to be the best. So when I see certain guys out there, and I seen Teo his last fight, I was there front row, and I'm like, damn, this dude is like, he like a baby Roy. Like, he like doing things with his hands down, flashy. And I thought it was cool, so it kind of made me want to get in a ring with him and see if he could do them things against my style.
Your last fight was against William Zepeda in July, and you fought a totally different way. It wasn't the easiest way or the best way to fight, but I think it was good for you and your development because it not only sent a message to the rest of the division, one up, your division at that time, and then the one above you, but it sent a message to the fans. But I think it also did something for you to prove to yourself that, man, listen, that wasn't like my best performance, but I showed you I can get it out the mud. What did that performance kind of do for you now that you look back at it?
Honestly, I think like styles-wise, I think that Zepeda's style is the style that's supposed to give me the most trouble. Like, guys that box and give me time to think is the guys that's going to have a fit with me all night. But the guys who press me and put me against some ropes and throw a million punches, that's the style that's supposed to give me trouble. So I went out there and I prevailed against that style, and now I'm fighting against a boxer, which for me, it just makes it more fun. I don't have to deal with a guy that's trying to like...
Now listen to this breakdown, because Bruce Carrington just exposed Lopez's biggest weakness, and it's something that could completely change the fight. Lopez struggles with dynamic movement. Yeah, he's athletic as hell, yeah, he hits like a truck, but when fighters start changing angles on him, when they control distance and spacing, Lopez gets frustrated. He starts to overcommit. He starts to chase. And against a fighter like Shakur, who has the composure and tactical awareness to exploit that weakness. That could be the difference between winning and losing. Carrington pointed out that Lopez relies on explosive bursts and aggressive exchanges, But that raw power becomes useless against a patient, mobile fighter who can reset after every combination. Imagine Lopez throwing bombs for 12 rounds while Shakur just dances around him, picking his spots, making Lopez miss, making him tired, making him desperate. That's not the fight Lopez wants, and it might be exactly the fight he gets.
Or the health of boxing on this side of the world. You know, listen, there's nothing like the Garden. We've both fought there many times. I fought in the big room. There's nothing like the Garden. Just the vibe, like you said, champ, that's around that. And this fight is deserving to be here. It's that good of a fight. It's that big a fight, and especially like I said, like the health of American boxing. This is one of the best fights that can be made, and putting it in the Garden just makes too much sense.
But the idea of the turmoil, the eyes on it, the spectacle, the circus. Chris, you talked about the idea that Teofimo Lopez kind of lives in this. That's where he flourishes. That's what he loves. This idea that because there's so many eyeballs on it, it's going to be kind of a circus. Does that favor Teofimo a little bit when you look at the strategy? Yes, no?
I'm going to say well, I can't say for certain because there's no certain with Teofimo Lopez. He's one of the most up, down, left, right guys I've ever been around.
Mercurial, we could say.
I mean,
yes.
But when he is on, he's damn near unbeatable. I mean, he's such a good athlete. He has such a good boxing IQ. He's so physical and explosive. And again, I've said this on past shows. I've called him many times for Top Rank, been around fight weeks. And it just seems to me, the more out of sorts he seems, the more back against the wall it looks like, the more that he's an underdog, the better he performs. And this could be that kind of situation. New York is a tough place, man. They're already gibbering, going back and forth, saying like, you know, he reps Brooklyn, but there's kind of questions about his Brooklyn roots. Can he really rep Brooklyn in the way that he says he can? So he's already getting that heat for that. I don't know. It might be a good thing to poke the bear in terms of how well Teofimo is going to show up.
Paulie, that's a huge. You're from Brooklyn. That's a big insult to say that you're not really from Brooklyn.
Insult him a little bit.
Insult him a little bit. Insult him.
But I'll tell you what. There's so many thoughts in my head with this situation because Teofimo is at his most dangerous when he's.
But wait, it gets even more interesting. Because Gary Antoine Russell just broke down a completely different version of Lopez, the version that destroyed Vasily Lomachenko. And that version of Lopez is absolutely terrifying. Russell emphasized that when Lopez combines aggression with control, when he maintains composure while applying relentless pressure, he becomes nearly unstoppable. It's not just about the raw talent or the physical gifts, it's about smart execution, adaptability, and mental focus. The Lomachenko fight showed us what happens when Lopez commits fully to his game plan, when he pushes the pace intelligently, when he uses his timing to perfection. He doesn't just win rounds, he dominates them. He forces elite fighters onto the defensive and keeps them there. Russell noted that Lopez's explosiveness and power are magnified when he's patient, when he waits for the right moments to unleash hell. And that's the version of Lopez that Shakur needs to be worried about.
I feel like Teo is going to bring the fight. He's very athletic. You know, he has a lot of explosiveness, and but I do feel like when it comes to Shakur, bro, his movement may frustrate him. The only thing that worries me when it comes to Teofimo is his frustration. Like, is he going to be able to work well with a mover? You know, we've seen, you know, difficulties that he had with Sandor Martin. We've seen the difficulties that he had with Jimmy Ortiz, guys that's been moving around and not staying still. Like, if you keep Teo moving around and he can't plant his feet, what can he do? We're going to have to find that out on, you know, January 31st. And I think Shakur, he's probably one of the best guys to, you know, move his feet, be on defense, being hella patient and frustrating a fighter, bro. Like, so, I don't know. We've seen Teo get frustrated to the point where he's asking himself, do I still got it? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We got to see what his mentality is going to be like come January 31st.
Do you think that his experience on the biggest of stages, you know, his two biggest wins, he was an underdog. And both guys, ironically enough, were southpaws like Shakur. That play any factor to you, man?
Nah, styles is different. The styles are totally different. Lomachenko don't fight like Shakur. Josh Taylor don't fight like Shakur. Like I don't see, just because southpaw, that same thing will happen. I feel like certain techniques could be used to fight Shakur, yeah. But in terms of like that approach of the fight, nah. Like Shakur fights totally different. You gotta be able to do some out of pocket stuff with Shakur. You gotta throw while he's throwing. That's probably some of the only times that he's able to get hit. You know, only time he's open. So Yeah, other than that, bro, it's gonna be a pretty tough night for Teofimo Lopez. But
Here's what nobody's saying, though, and this is the real story behind this fight. Both of these guys are at career-defining moments, but for completely different reasons. Lopez is trying to prove he's not a one-hit wonder, that the Lomachenko victory wasn't a fluke, that he belongs in conversations with the elite fighters of this generation. Every expert, every analyst, every fan who's writing him off as the underdog is adding fuel to a fire that's already burning hot. Meanwhile, Shakur is trying to prove he's ready for the throne, that all the hype and all the expectations are justified, that he can handle the pressure of being the golden boy. The psychological warfare here is insane. Lopez thrives as the underdog. It's where he's most dangerous. Shakur has never been in a fight where the entire boxing world is watching and waiting for him to prove himself against someone with Lopez's resume.
Yeah, nah, for sure. I mean, look, like you said, the first thing you said was bluffing McMuffin, right? So you don't think that he's gonna do that. Let's just say that's the case. Let's say he wins this fight, but he doesn't win this fight. Whatever happens.
Right, because you made a statement after he said, "Oh, let's see, I'm gonna go back down to 35." So which one is it, man? He kind of 6'7" with it.
There you go.
Come on, which one is it?
So let's talk about 140 then, because obviously there's other champions there. One who you've been going back and forth with recently online, one that you have history with, and you got other guys, Subriel there, somebody else you had history, Richardson Hitchens. What's the route for you going forward after your next fight?
After my next fight, unify. I've always let it be known. I want to be undisputed in my division. I want to unify. Anybody who got a title at the time, that's what I need to see next after my next up-and-coming fight.
Gary, just talk about, obviously your division is hot right now. This fight, your fight coming up, you know, maybe one of the biggest ones in Teofimo versus Shakur. Just looking at that fight stylistically, how does it play out in the ring?
It's 50-50. You know, in order for you to participate in this sport, you got to have a high level of confidence. I feel like both of them has a high level of confidence, Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, but styles make fights. Naturally, I think Teofimo Lopez is stronger than Shakur. Naturally, I think he has more athleticism than Shakur, and he got a good IQ on the sport itself. But Shakur, I feel like he's a more smarter fighter. He's a more technical fighter. You know, I'm not saying that he's a square or he's just a textbook fighter, but he's seasoned, he's poised. I feel like mentally he's more mature. Like, he don't go outside of the boundaries on.
And here's the kicker that's going to determine everything: conditioning and heart. Russell mentioned that Lopez can wipe somebody out when he's fully committed, when he's combining that strategic patience with explosive power. But what happens in rounds 9, 10, 11, and 12? What happens when both fighters are exhausted, when technique starts to break down, when it becomes about who wants it more? Lopez has been in those deep waters before. He's felt that championship pressure, that moment when everything you've worked for comes down to the next 3 minutes. Shakur's been dominant, but has he been tested like that? Has he ever had to dig deep and find something extra when his back is against the wall? Because if this fight goes the distance like everyone expects, those final rounds are going to separate the champion from the challenger.
Oh, he's a born fighter. He's a careful fighter. And I feel like with Teofimo Lopez, he's going to be a careful fighter. Now, just because he's a careful fighter doesn't mean that he isn't punctual with how he do things. I think Shakur, he got a lot in his arsenal that he can use to make him be victorious, as well as Teofimo Lopez. You know what I mean? So it's a 50-50 fight, and it depends on what fighters show up the night of the fight. Right. You know, but if I had to give you my whole honest truth, if Teofimo Lopez show up and is ready to fight just like I.
So here's what we're really looking at. Two of the most skilled fighters in the sport, both with something massive to prove, both with completely different styles and approaches, about to settle this once and for all. Lopez with his underdog mentality and explosive power against Shakur with his technical brilliance and championship confidence. The early rounds will set the tone, the middle rounds will test their conditioning, and the championship rounds will reveal who has the bigger heart. This isn't just about boxing, it's about legacy, it's about respect, it's about who controls the future of the lightweight division. And honestly, I think we're about to witness something special, something that people will be talking about for years. So here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Do you think Lopez's underdog mentality and explosive power can overcome Shakur's technical superiority? Or is this the night Shakur announces himself as the king of the division? If this breakdown got you hyped for what might be the fight of the year, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell because we're going to be covering every single moment of this incredible matchup. I'll see you in the next one. But wait, there's something else brewing beneath the surface that could completely shift the momentum of this entire fight, and it's something most people are overlooking: the mental game. Lopez has been through the fire before. He's felt the pressure of being written off. He's experienced the doubt. He's lived with everyone questioning whether he belongs at the elite level. That kind of adversity either breaks you or forges you into something harder, something more dangerous. And Lopez, he's been forged. Every time someone counted him out, he came back stronger. Every time the odds were stacked against him, he found a way to flip the script. But Shakur's mental state is completely different territory. He's been the golden boy, the prospect everyone believed in, the fighter who was supposed to dominate. What happens when that perfect image gets tested by someone who refuses to play along with the narrative? Here's where this gets absolutely wild, and I'm talking about something that could change the entire complexion of this fight. Lopez's team has been studying Shakur's footage obsessively, and they've identified patterns that most people miss. Shakur has a tendency to get comfortable when he's ahead on the scorecards. He starts to cruise, starts to play it safe, starts to rely on his natural talent instead of pushing the pace. But Lopez's style doesn't allow for comfort zones. He's relentless, he's unpredictable, and he thrives on creating chaos when his opponents least expect it. Picture this scenario: Shakur wins the first 4 rounds clean, feels like he's in control, starts to settle into his rhythm, and then Lopez explodes in round 5 with a combination that changes everything. Suddenly, Shakur's not fighting his game plan anymore. He's fighting for survival. And that's when Lopez becomes most dangerous, when he can smell blood in the water and knows his opponent is rattled. But let's talk about something that's going to shock people when they see it in real time. Lopez's footwork has been completely transformed since his last major fight. His team brought in specialists, movement coaches, people who understand how to neutralize the exact type of technical boxing that Shakur brings to the table. Lopez isn't just going to be the aggressive power puncher everyone expects. He's going to be cutting off the ring differently, controlling distance better, and making it impossible for Shakur to establish those clean, technical exchanges he relies on. When Shakur tries to circle out and reset, Lopez is going to be there waiting. When Shakur tries to establish his jab and control the center of the ring, Lopez is going to disrupt that timing with unconventional angles and unexpected pressure. This isn't the same Lopez that people remember from previous fights. This is an evolved version, a fighter who's combined his natural gifts with serious technical improvements. And here's something that's going to blow your mind about the psychological warfare that's already happening behind the scenes. Lopez's camp has been spreading rumors, planting seeds of doubt, doing everything they can to get inside Shakur's head before they even step into that ring. They're talking about how Shakur has never faced anyone with Lopez's combination of speed and power. They're questioning whether Shakur's technical skills will hold up under real pressure. They're suggesting that all of Shakur's previous opponents were carefully selected to make him look good. Now, most of that is typical pre-fight gamesmanship, but here's the thing: there's just enough truth mixed in with the hype to make it dangerous. Shakur has been protected to some degree. He has been brought along carefully. And Lopez represents the first real test where anything can happen, where his natural advantages might not be enough. But flip the script for a second, because Shakur's team is playing their own psychological games, and they're hitting Lopez where it hurts most. They're talking about how Lopez has never recovered from that loss to George Kambosos Jr., how that defeat broke something inside him that can't be fixed. They're suggesting that Lopez's confidence is all an act, that deep down he knows he's not elite level, that he's desperately trying to recapture magic that was probably just a lucky night against Lomachenko. They're pointing out that Lopez looked vulnerable in his comeback fights, that he's shown signs of wear and tear that don't bode well for a 12-round war against someone with Shakur's conditioning and technical precision. And here's what makes this psychological warfare so effective. Both fighters are dealing with legitimate questions about their careers that these mind games are designed to exploit. Now here's where the technical breakdown gets absolutely fascinating, and this is stuff that only hardcore boxing fans usually pick up on. Lopez's power isn't just about raw strength, it's about timing and leverage. He generates incredible force because he knows how to plant his feet at exactly the right moment, how to transfer weight from his back foot to his front foot while maintaining perfect balance. But Shakur's defensive system is specifically designed to neutralize that type of power. He uses distance, angle changes, and upper body movement to make sure power punchers never get the leverage they need to hurt him. So we're looking at a classic case of unstoppable force meeting immovable object. Lopez's power versus Shakur's defensive mastery. Lopez's timing versus Shakur's anticipation. Lopez's aggression versus Shakur's composure. On paper, it sounds like Shakur should be able to neutralize everything Lopez brings to the table. But boxing isn't fought on paper, and Lopez has a way of creating opportunities that don't exist in textbooks. Here's something that's going to determine the entire fight, and it's all about who can impose their rhythm first. Boxing matches are like musical compositions. There's a tempo, a beat, a flow that develops over the course of 12 rounds. Shakur wants a measured pace, clean exchanges, technical boxing where he can showcase his superior skills and ring IQ. Lopez wants chaos, constant pressure, moments where pure athleticism and power can override technical advantages. The fighter who establishes their preferred rhythm in the first 3 rounds is going to have a massive advantage for the rest of the fight. If Shakur can keep it technical and controlled, Lopez is going to spend the entire fight trying to catch up, trying to force something that isn't there. But if he can turn it into a phone booth fight, if he can make it ugly and physical and unpredictable, Shakur is going to be fighting outside his comfort zone for 36 minutes. And let's talk about something that could be the deciding factor in this entire fight ring generalship. That's the ability to control space, dictate pace, and make your opponent fight your fight whether they want to or not. Shakur has shown excellent ring generalship against technical fighters, guys who want to box and move and engage in the kind of chess match he excels at. But Lopez brings a completely different energy, a different type of presence that can disrupt even the best ring generals. Lopez doesn't just throw punches, he throws his entire body weight behind his attacks. He doesn't just move forward, he cuts off escape routes and forces confrontations. When Lopez is at his best, he makes the ring feel smaller, makes his opponents feel trapped, makes every exchange feel dangerous. That's a type of pressure that even experienced fighters struggle to handle, and it's something Shakur has never faced at this level. But here's the wild card that nobody's talking about, and it could completely change this fight. Lopez's counterpunching has improved dramatically over the past year. Everyone knows about his aggressive style and his ability to pressure opponents, but his team has been working on making him more patient, more selective, more dangerous on the counter. Picture this: Shakur comes out boxing beautifully, establishing his jab, controlling distance, looking every bit like the technical master everyone expects him to be. But every time he commits to a combination, Lopez is there with a perfectly timed counter that stops him in his tracks. Every time Shakur tries to establish his rhythm, Lopez disrupts it with something unexpected. That's not the Lopez most people are preparing for, and it might not be the Lopez that Shakur's team has been studying. If Lopez can combine his natural aggression with improved defensive awareness and counterpunching, he becomes exponentially more dangerous. Here's what's really going to separate this fight from everything else we've seen this year. The stakes are absolutely massive for both fighters, but they're massive in completely different ways. For Lopez, this is about validation, about proving that he belongs in conversations with the elite fighters of this generation, about showing that the Lomachenko victory was the beginning of something special, not the peak of his career. A loss here doesn't just cost him a fight, it potentially costs him his legacy, his credibility, his place in boxing history. But for Shakur, the pressure is even more intense. He's been anointed as the future of the division, the guy who's supposed to carry boxing into the next era. Everyone expects him to win, and not just win, but win impressively. A loss doesn't just derail his career trajectory, it calls into question everything people believed about his potential. And here's the crazy part about the betting odds and public perception. Lopez being the underdog might be the best thing that could happen to him. Throughout his entire career, he's performed best when people doubted him, when he had something to prove, when he could play the role of the hungry challenger instead of the established champion. The pressure is off him in a weird way. Nobody expects him to win, so anything he does is going to exceed expectations. Meanwhile, Shakur is dealing with the weight of being the favorite, of having to live up to all the hype, of knowing that anything less than a dominant performance is going to be viewed as a disappointment. That's a completely different type of pressure, and it affects fighters in ways they don't always anticipate. Some fighters rise to meet those expectations, but others get crushed by them.